Hello, my name is Brenton Lengel, and I am a writer, comic artist. Most recently, I am the author of Snow White Zombie Apocalypse. This is my comic, and we are currently running a successful Kickstarter for another 3 days. This Kickstarter, we've raised over $10,000, and we've almost hit our final stretch goal of $12,000. Link is going to be in the description of this video. So if you like this stream, you like hearing what I have to say, definitely check that out. I'm here, working to do a quick vlog here because, I've decided to try out YouTube a little bit and kind of had something that I wanted to talk about. So I've been doing a lot of videos on philosophy and politics, and there's been something that's been bugging me for months, and this may be old news to a lot of people, but I've decided to talk a bit about Jordan Peterson. The reason I wanted to talk about Dr. Jordan Peterson is there is a very specific criticism, like a lot of the stuff that he said, particularly stuff about Lobsters, has been, dissected to death. But I haven't actually heard this particular argument before. I hope someone else has meant, I'm going to make it right now, because the whole thing that you find with people like Jordan Peterson when they make their arguments about hierarchy, they tend to strawman the left in a big, big way. Now, I don't personally consider myself left wing or right wing, really. Lately I tend to agree more with the left, but that's also because, have you seen the right wing? Giant orange baby man that lies constantly, um, so, if Bernie Sanders is looking to, give my family health care, the care that we need, I'm going to go with that as opposed to the giant orange baby man that wants us to live in hell world. But, at the end of the day, I'm not really right or left. I'm an anarchist. And so the thing is that Jordan Peterson has sort of become kind of like a big time guru for the right over the past couple of years. And, he did it about lying about Bill C-16, and this has all been done to death, where people talked about it. But where he really started to stand out was this interview, I believe, with a journalist named Katie Neubauer or something, a BBC journalist. And, this particular journalist did particularly poorly in her interview with him, and he came out looking pretty good, or at least he seemed to have come out looking pretty good. And one of the things that he pointed to in this argument, where he was trying to argue, was this bizarre argument he made that I think everybody's seen because it's been clipped out, where he talks about how lobsters have hierarchy. And with regard to the lobster hierarchy, there's the little lobster and the top lobster, and they fight, and the lobster that loses, well, he gets depressed, and like SSRIs work on lobsters. Jordan Peterson, the interviewer then goes on to say, are you saying we should pattern our society after lobsters? And he's like, I'm saying that there will be continuity in how, humans and other organisms organize. So here's the thing. This is not entirely a good faith argument that he's making here. With regard to the whole lobster argument, really what he's doing is he's trying to say, I observe hierarchies in nature, and because I observe hierarchies in nature in general, specific hierarchies in human societies are just and fair, and it is right that we have patriarchy, it is right that we have capitalism, and all of these things. He doesn't come directly out and say it, but he implies. And other people have pointed this out about him. I'm hardly the only person to bring it up. But the thing is, and I think I said this in a stream with Caleb Maupin of RT. Caleb and I are friends. We've known each other since Occupy, and we've done a couple streams together. So go check Caleb out if you want to. He's a real smart guy, very sharp. Anyway, what I wanted to point out is that this argument that Jordan Peterson advanced about we see this hierarchy in nature, therefore there must be this hierarchy in humans. Um, the thing, or inevitably there will be continuity, and however he wants to say it. The thing is that this is just a terrible argument, and it doesn't really address anything that the left has ever been talking about in their critique on hierarchy. And the main critique on hierarchy on the left is to be found within the anarchist movement. It's both the most developed critique of hierarchy, and it is the I would say it was also the most radical critique of hierarchy. Like, getting rid of unjust hierarchies is pretty much like anarchism's whole thing. Like, you could see it as entirely almost as an ideology that exists to identify, name, and eliminate unjust hierarchy. So how does this apply to Jordan Peterson's argument? And the thing is that his argument ultimately was a straw man, and has been a straw man since at least 1871. And I'm going to read you a quote. This is from Mikhail Bakunin, a very famous anarchist who was there in the IWA along with Proudhon. He had a famous fight with Marx in the IWA that led to a split, but he was there with Proudhon and Peter Kropotkin, and Lysander Spooner, all of these people that were very big in the anarchist movement. And he was also there with Karl Marx and Engels, while people were trying to figure out what to do with this new world as the Industrial Revolution was building, and we saw all of the upheaval of the late 1800s and early 1900s. But he has this great essay called "What is Authority?" And I actually did, back in 2015, through Autonomous Collective, I did a audiobook of it, a copy of which I've uploaded to this YouTube channel. I uploaded it earlier today, where I read the entire essay. It's a beautiful essay. It's a little purple prosy, but the what he's talking about is very clear and very concise. And the thing is that if you read that essay and if you understand it, you realize that Jordan Peterson's criticisms of hierarchy and his idea that we need to be the top lobster, none of this applies to any sort of standard critique of hierarchy, not from a leftist perspective, at least. And again, this is not new stuff. Jordan Peterson, if he should have read Bakunin if he wanted to criticize this kind of stuff. But of course, I doubt he even knows who Bakunin is, because he's a professor of psychology and he's better off staying in his lane and not jumping into all of this other stuff. So I'm going to read a quote. It's a slightly longer quote, but stay with me on this, okay? What is authority? Is it the inevitable power of the natural laws which manifest themselves in the necessary linking and succession of phenomena in the physical and social worlds? Indeed, against these laws, revolt is not only forbidden, it is even impossible. We may misunderstand them or not know them at all, but we cannot disobey them because they constitute the basis and the fundamental condition of our existence. They envelop us, penetrate us, regulate all of our movements, thoughts and acts. Even when we believe that we disobey them, we only show their omnipotence. Yes, we are absolutely the slaves of these laws. But in such slavery, there is humiliation, or rather, it is not slavery at all. For slavery supposes an external master, a legislator outside of him whom he commands. While these laws are not outside of us, they are inherent in us. They constitute our being, our whole being, physically, intellectually, morally. We live, we breathe, we act, we think, we wish only through these laws. Without them, we are nothing, and we are not. Whence, then, could we derive the power and the wish to rebel against them? Now, that's the quote. And the essay goes on. As I said, I'm going to link the full audiobook in the description. You can also just Google it. And I'll also have the full text in the description and at the end of this video. But why did I want to bring this up here? Well, here's the deal. So essentially what Bakunin is saying there, when he's saying, where could we, how could we possibly get the wish to rebel against these natural laws. He's saying we can't. Like, we literally can't, even if we wanted to. So essentially, when Jordan Peterson says that there is inevitably going to be continuity between the way that lobsters structure their societies and the way that humans structure their societies, or apes, or anything else, what he's essentially arguing for is he is arguing that the current social order, as we see it, man above woman, white above black, just this nation above that nation, all of the rich above poor, bourgeoisie above worker, all of it is justified and natural and don't change anything. That's what he wants you to believe. And the thing is that has never been the argument that like leftists have ever made. We've never said this natural hierarchy must go away. And if you read the rest of that essay, what Bakunin really talks about is, he even says, like, do I reject all authority? Perish the thought. In the authority of boots, I look at the bootmaker. In this authority, for the authority in like railways and trains, I consult the engineer. The thing is that the hierarchy that Bakunin is going after, the authority that he sees that needs to be removed, as well as the authority that anarchists have been going after, be they standard anarchists, anarcho-feminists, whatever, is specifically human-imposed hierarchy. It is not general hierarchy. It is specific hierarchy. So, yeah, there may be, hierarchy in the world of lobsters. And there's hierarchy in the world of apes as well. Very different ape societies. For instance, one of the most hierarchical forms of apes are the baboons. And the baboons were long thought that this was a very violent society composed and controlled entirely by powerful alpha males that ran their bands. And, it was essentially like, a sort of the idea of the way human society should be as presented by like men's rights activists and like MGTOWs and all those weirdos. Really like, but the thing is that even with the baboons, the mandrills, as some people in the UK call them, like even with them, there has been documented a peaceful matriarchal society that has emerged within their cultures. This happened in a specific band that was being, scientifically studied, where the band first came upon a human garbage dump. And suddenly they were living in a post-scarcity world because they didn't have to go look for food anymore. They just wait for the garbage to come and go through it, and bam, there's their food. Then a pandemic came through, and this particular pandemic killed all of the alpha males in this particular band. Now, once these alpha males died, they were left with younger males and also females. And the females took control of the society, and this band emerged as a peaceful band. And even when new alpha males from other bands would come and join them, instead of immediately beating everybody up and taking that top spot and being the top lobster, I shouldn't make fun of the way he talks, but it's really not. That accent, just the way he says it, gets me every time. The alpha males coming in from other bands wound up instead like conforming to the peaceful matriarchal society. So even in baboons, which are way less, they're certainly not nearly as sophisticated as we humans are, their social structure is a social construct. It is cultural. They have a culture. And the thing is that apes, lots of great apes, they all have specific cultures. Bonobos mourn their dead. They're also matriarchal, and they solve all their problems with group sex. Am I saying we should solve all of our problems with group sex? Probably. That sounds amazing. But the thing is that oftentimes I find from conservatives and from people on the right this insistence that nature dictates exactly how we are in our current moment, and that any attempt to change that, any attempt to make men and women more equal, any attempt to engage in any kind of reconciliation or redress of grievances with minority groups, all of this is doomed to fail because the way things are now is the natural way. And they've made this argument again and again and again throughout history. And it's even understanding at times, because when something is all it can seem very much like it is real, like it is objective, like it is scientific, especially if there's money and power and authority behind it, especially if it's like convenient to those in power. One of these days, I'm going to talk a little bit about Lysenko, who was a Russian scientist who wound up having ridiculous ideas about essentially about evolution. He rejected Darwinian evolution and had a vision of Lamarckian evolution that was, how shall I put it, convenient to the Communist Party of Russia at the time and convenient to Stalin. And so he wound up becoming like the biggest scientist in the world, and everybody was listening to what he had to say. And, he was just talking total crap, kind of like how Jordan Peterson said some convenient things for certain people who are in power, and boom, one of the biggest intellectuals in the world, making tons and tons of money on Patreon. And I don't 100% begrudge him that, because a lot of the stuff he says, I particularly like when he's talking about archetypes. I particularly like some of his insights that he has on stories and mythology. That's just kind of stuff that I really like. But when he goes beyond that and starts like talking about how trans people don't exist or whatever, or or how we all need to like make sure that women don't wear makeup in the workplace, it's just ridiculous. But what I really wanted to point out here, and the reason why I'm doing this stream right now, is to let you guys know that oftentimes people will find a straw man version of their opponent's argument. And they'll do it either in good faith or in bad faith. In Jordan Peterson's sense, I think it's just that he hasn't read these authors. He hasn't read Bakunin. He doesn't know much about anarchism. And therefore, he just kind of assumes, oh, well, this must be how it is, so I'm going to go and take this down. Whereas, so it could be ignorance, it could be malice, but either way, like, the critique of power has always been that within the structures that we have, within our ability to organize, we need to make things as egalitarian as possible and as rational as possible. So even if, there are aspects of hierarchy that we cannot do away with, or that we could do away with, but maybe we shouldn't because they're actually good and beneficial, leftists and anarchists don't want to get rid of those. I remember, one of the things I'll do is I work as a wilderness guide. And when I take people into the wilderness, what happens is that they agree to listen to me, because I'm the guide. I possess knowledge and skills that they don't have for a specific period of time. But it's not like, after we leave, I'm suddenly still running things. It's only while we're in the woods. And at times like that, I've even found times like where I was not authoritarian enough as a guide, and it actually led to problems. I was on one hike, I remember, and there was a group, and certain members of the group were clearly having a little bit of difficulty with the hike. And I felt like what I need to do was say, okay, we need to go a short distance now, because and I wouldn't have said it, but like, because these people seem to be, sucking wind, and a longer hike would be a problem. So what I did was, instead of saying that, I went and I said, let's put it up to a vote. Do we do the shorter way or the longer way? What do you guys want to do? And the group voted to go the longer way. Even the people in the group who I was watching, I was like, okay, they do not want to go much longer here. They still voted with the rest of the group because they didn't want to be the person ruining everyone's fun. And so we wound up taking the longer route. And, I mean, nobody got hurt or died or anything, but I think several of those people had a worse time than they otherwise would have been if I had just stepped up and used my authority. So when someone starts talking about natural laws in the sense of natural laws and how they govern human society, if it's really a natural law, and as opposed to someone's opinion about how society should be, or just something that they think is really important, you can't actually violate it. And as such, attempts to make our hierarchy more egalitarian are for the most part good. I mean, I don't want one of the things that I think Mao did, Mao Zedong, and now I'm going to get tankies mad at me, was like he was so anti-hierarchy for a little while that, like, for instance, he wanted unqualified people working in nuclear plants. That's obviously insane, and there are reasons behind that. In fact, I had a great conversation about that with Caleb, because Caleb is more on the authoritarian communist end of the spectrum. But at the same time, just because I understand why Mao had that view does not mean that I agree with that view. And you can see problems with unqualified people in scientific fields or whatever. So where does this bring us to, and how do we move forward as a society when it comes to hierarchy, when it comes to structures, when it comes to who we listen to and when? I think what's very important about this is that hierarchy continually be questioned. Authority is greedy, and power tends to result in more power. So, as someone gains a specific amount of prestige for doing something, for instance, Michael Bloomberg makes the Bloomberg terminal and he makes a bunch of money and all these stockbrokers love him for it. Suddenly he's being given more and more authority. And suddenly he's mayor of New York and he's commanding, the NYPD, which he refers to as his own personal army, and the 8th largest army in the world, the 5th largest army in the world or something. And he's suddenly running his weird quasi-fascist authoritarian police state in New York. And I'm watching, helicopters in the air, and I'm watching my friends get beaten up by cops, and I'm watching cops intimidate journalists, and I'm seeing Michael Bloomberg, working with the New York Times to, control the narrative when he clears Zuccotti Park. All of this because some guy created a computer terminal some people really like. That's idiotic. It is a huge problem that people have when one person displays competence in one area, even a great deal of competence, and we think that that means competence across the board. Essentially, what this is what's called the halo fallacy, where we assume that one characteristic of a person applies to that entire person. It's how ad hominem arguments work, and it's how hierarchy, bad hierarchy, the kind of hierarchy we want to do away with, functions. So going forward, again, the important thing to do is to not just go out there and immediately accuse your boss of being an idiot and try to take his place or whatever. It's to find out, is this relationship beneficial? Are we doing this to the best of our abilities? Could it be better? And then work to make it better. That's really the only way forward. So with that, I want to end things here. I want to thank you guys for coming. As I said, we've got the Snow White Zombie Apocalypse comic and the second issue is being funded on Kickstarter. We are about to hit our $12,000 stretch goal. If we hit that, we will have two, not one, but two prequels. The first one going into the rise of the zombie plague, which we're all experiencing right now, called The Reign of the Blood-Covered King, while the fairy tale characters' political systems fail them. And we will be following that up with Swaza Dwarvicide if we hit 12,000. And that is going to be the story of the Snow White and the Seven Dwarves leading up to their bloody defeat at the hands of Rapunzel. They're zombies then. It's okay. She doesn't just kill dwarves. So check that out. Link is going to be in the description, Snow White Zombie Apocalypse, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.